The worst death in ancient history wasn't a battle. It wasn't a plague. It wasn't even an execution. It was something so methodical, so deliberately slow, that historians still struggle to describe it without flinching. And the most disturbing part? It was considered completely legal, completely justified, and in some cultures, even honorable. Before we get there, let's establish something important. Ancient civilizations were not primitive. Rome built aqueducts. Greece gave us philosophy. Persia ran one of the most sophisticated empires the world had ever seen. These were intelligent, organized, structured societies, which means when they designed ways to kill people, they were deliberate about it. They weren't stumbling into cruelty. They were engineering it. And some of what they engineered is almost impossible to comprehend. Let's start with the runners-up, because context matters. The Persians practiced a method called scaphism, also known as the boats. A condemned person was stripped, force-fed milk and honey until they developed severe diarrhea, then strapped between two wooden boats with holes cut for their head, hands, and feet, left floating on a stagnant pond. The mixture of waste and honey attracted insects, which bred inside the body, while the person was still alive. Greek historian Plutarch documented at least one case where the victim survived this way for 17 days. 17 days. Then there was crucifixion, which most people think they understand, but don't. The cross wasn't just symbolic. It was a machine. The position forced the victim to choose between two kinds of agony. Hanging from the wrists caused asphyxiation, so to breathe, you had to push up on the nail through your feet. You essentially alternated between suffocating and tearing open your own wounds to take a breath. Roman physicians documented the full physiological breakdown. Could take 2 to 4 days, sometimes longer. These were not accidents of cruelty. These were systems. But neither of them is the answer to today's question. The death that historians most consistently identify as the peak of deliberate human suffering is one most people have never heard of. The Brazen Bull. Invented in ancient Greece, specifically attributed to a craftsman named Perillos of Athens around 570 BC. It was a hollow bronze statue, life-sized, cast in the shape of a bull. A door on the side, person placed inside, a fire lit beneath. The bronze heated slowly. That was the point. It wasn't instant. It wasn't even fast. The victim would be alive inside a metal chamber that was gradually, evenly becoming an oven. And here is the detail that makes historians go quiet. Perillos designed a system of tubes and pipes inside the bull's head so that as the person inside screamed, the sound would pass through the pipes and emerge from the bull's mouth as something resembling the bellowing of an animal. The audience outside would hear a bull, not a person. The screaming was aesthetic. It was part of the design. There's a brutal irony buried in its origin. According to ancient accounts, including those of Diodorus Siculus and Pindar, when Perillos presented the device to the Sicilian tyrant Phalaris, Phalaris asked him to demonstrate how it worked. Perillos climbed inside to show the acoustics. Phalaris locked the door and lit the fire. Perillos became the first victim of his own invention. There is something almost poetic about that. Almost. Phalaris himself was later killed by a rebellion, and according to some accounts, he was executed inside the same bull he had used on so many others. The device was real. The deaths were real. And what makes it singular isn't just the physical suffering, though that alone would be enough. It's the psychological architecture of it. The crowd heard music. The victim experienced the complete collapse of everything: heat, isolation, darkness, and the knowledge that their agony was being transformed into entertainment for people who couldn't even hear them as human. That combination, physical maximum suffering plus complete psychological erasure, is what puts it in a category of its own. We study these things not to celebrate them. We study them because they reveal something about power, about what humans do when they have absolute control over another person and face no consequence for it. Every civilization in this video considered itself advanced, considered itself just, had laws, had philosophers, had poets, and built these things anyway. The question worth sitting with isn't how they did it. The question is what they told themselves that made it feel reasonable. Because that answer, that psychology, didn't disappear when the ancient world ended. It just changed shape. If this kind of history interests you, the psychology behind it, not just the events, subscribe. That's exactly what this channel is about.